Hello and welcome to the Beyond the Hustle podcast. My name is Lydia and I'm a mindset and business coach for high-achieving entrepreneurs. In this podcast, I share insights into how you can create a life of freedom, happiness, and personal fulfillment while increasing financial success way beyond what you have achieved with hustle alone so far. Plus, every other week, I interview inspiring and out-of-the-box thinking entrepreneurs. Have fun and enjoy. Hello and welcome to another interview. And today I have Susanne Ringen here with me, and she is a leadership coach and a consultant for organizational design. And I'm super excited about this interview as we will talk or discuss topics around leadership, how to build your team, especially as an entrepreneur, how to get started. So welcome to the show today, and I'm happy to have you here, Susanne.
Hi, Lydia. Thank you so much for inviting me. And I'm also really excited about all the things and all the ideas that will come up while we talk.
Perfect. I usually start with some questions or the main question that you introduce yourself. So where you're from, what do you do, and basically how have you ended up in as a leadership coach and consultant for organizational design?
Yeah, I'm Susanne, and already the question is, where are you coming from is really difficult for me because I've grown up in very different places in Germany, in Holland, in the USA, and right now I live in Norway and in Berlin. So where do you come from is a bit tricky for me to answer. But I'm 51 years old, and it's just for the last 10 years that I have come to the feeling that, okay, this is what you really want to do. And before that, I've had the different stations in my life, from studying, from being a massage therapist, from being an IT consultant, from being a HR professional leader, up to my self-employment. So what I really want to give other people the impression of how did you get there? It's like, just move on. And how do you find out what you want to do? Is just keep on moving. And if it doesn't feel right, then it doesn't feel right. Then just go on. Life is movement. Life is not static. And so how have I ended up? Just by trying, giving things a chance, giving me a chance, and trying.
Oh, that's beautiful. And very similar to me, actually, because I also moved a lot and have lived in different places. So I actually didn't know that before. And also the piece that you said, like, yeah, just keep on moving. Life is not stagnant. Life really is about giving it a go and trying things out. And that probably also makes you a so-called perfect entrepreneur, because it's all about trying out things and moving on, I guess. Are you in the perfect stage now as an entrepreneur? Or a self-employed person?
I was self-employed before, and that was my late 20s. And I promised myself and I swore to myself, never do that again, because that was a complete crash. And I was 30-something. I was completely bankrupt. I had debts above my head. And so I swore to myself, never do that again. That's so silly to do that. It's so silly to be an entrepreneur. It's so silly to be self-employed. But then, life changes and things come up, and then you just do it. And so I did it again, yes. But I don't know if I'm in a good stage or not. I think it's a constant going. It's a constant struggle. It's a constant fighting. It's a constant trust, and it's constant fun. And it's constant learning. And you really have to be aware of that. If you want to be self-employed, if you want to become an entrepreneur, you never stop growing. And you will come to the point that you doubt. You will come to the point that you think, oh, this is not good for me. But I think deep down, if you trust yourself, then you can manage it.
Yeah, I think you give a beautiful, almost like a bow, of everything that owning a business or being self-employed has, or what it includes, so to say. Because I love that you started with struggle and fighting. So that's one side. And then you said fun and trust. And trust is a very big thing. And I think we have this, even people who are employed should trust, because it's not a given that they keep their employment. But so many people don't think about it. For them, it's just like, oh, I get my paychecks, and they don't think about the very thing that they lose their job. So no one thinks about that. But we as entrepreneurs, we have this constantly in front of our eyes. So we can actually learn to trust much more because we are facing it every day. So nice point that you made there. I wanted to move because you're, as you said, a leadership coach, and I wanted to move into that direction, what you do now. So you work with companies, you work with business owners, and you help to build a team or improve on their teams.
I either work with companies that are really already a bit bigger. So with first-time leaders that come to me that want to know how can I be a good leader, but also with organizations that just start. They're a startup, they're building up their team, they try to find the right people, which is not easy as a startup because it's a lot of pressure, it's a lot of work, but usually with less payment. And so I work with them either on the leadership concept, how do you want to lead, or on the organization itself, what kind of teams do you need, what kind of people do you need, how can you build your teams, how can you build up your organization. So it's those two different sides.
And both are super interesting for me and obviously for the people who listen, like the audience here, because it comes to every business owner at some point that you have to start outsourcing, either because your ideas grow and you have more ideas and you need people to implement the stuff that you already have, or perhaps you go, like, for example, I move more into this investment direction. So I don't want to do a lot in my business anymore at all, especially not the things I don't like. And so many of my clients are in the exact same position. So they want to grow their business. It's a heart-centered business. So it's not just about making money. It's about impact. It's about changing the world, so to say. But then the idea like, okay, how can I make this bigger? Because right now it's just me. I can only work as many hours. And what you said, like many people struggle with how do I find the right employees? Because they always have a different mindset. Like, how can I find people who really match my team? And the other thing, obviously, is what do I need? And these would be the two questions for you. What do I need to grow in myself or teach myself or develop in myself so that I actually become a good leader? So this would be the two questions I would like to go a little deeper with you.
To getting to that question of how can I lead or how can I start to lead? How can I become a good leader if there is anything like a good leader? The first step, I think, is to find yourself a concept and how you want to lead, and find out, get a kind of leading vision. How does it feel? How should it feel for others? How should it feel for you? Leading should not be stress. Leading should be fun. It should be fun to work with people. It shouldn't stress you. And I work with a Norwegian concept that is called tight, loose, tight. And it's 3 words. It's a leadership concept. So the first word, tight, be tight, means be clear about the vision, be clear about your goals, be clear about what you want to achieve with your team, with your company. So be really very, very tight and clear on that point, and what you expect from people, your expectations, everything. And the middle, the loose, tight, loose, let go, let the people do. Because if you hire people, even if you outsource, you find people that are good, they're experts in what they do. So don't control them, let go. If you're clear in your goals, if you're clear in your expectations, then you can let go. And the third word, again, it's a tight, loose, tight. The third word is stick to it and go in retrospectives, go in reviews, talk about if your expectations have been met, give feedback, give mentorship, give leading. And so if you go with this concept, it sounds a bit easy. Oh, okay, tight, loose, tight. But if you go with a concept, what you achieve is some clarity. What you achieve is when you struggle with your leading, when you struggle with your team, or you have the idea of, the team is not going in the right direction, they don't do what I want them to do. Then with those 3 words, you find out pretty quickly what is missing. Am I clear enough? Am I loose enough? Am I tight enough in managing my expectations? Do I really give feedback? And with that concept, you can trust. With that concept, you can let go. Because you still give the team or the people you lead a clear structure in which they can move, in which they can go.
Okay.
That's the one idea. Find a concept how you want to lead. And I think that concept is really easy to adapt.
You started out with like, how do I want this to feel for myself? And how do I want this to feel for the other? Because leading should be fun and not a struggle and stress. And most of the people I work with, they start with a stressful leading experience because the people never do what they want. It's difficult, and so the first thing is obviously, goal and vision clarity, all of that, like clarity that you have to have first. You can't expect your employees to have vision for your company. Like you have to lead with this and probably communicate it properly. And then, like how I understood, to let go and let them do things. However, I would say in that point, and I would love your argument around that, what if you have people who are not easy to be led, so to say? Like, what if you have people who have a character that's difficult? Do you just fire them and find new ones?
I'm not a fan of hiring and firing, even though I have been in the position where I had to do that as an HR professional, as an HR leader. But usually people behave according to the structure. People behave according to the context. People behave according to what they have learned before. So to say a person has a difficult character is always a bit tricky. To me, I would try to be good in the communication, be good in the feedback, and be very clear about it. And say, hey, listen, I don't know if I made my point clear. I don't know if my expectations were clear enough, but try to go in as many feedback loops as possible before you come to the conclusion this is not working out. But of course, it can happen that it's not working out. Of course, it can happen that I have to let go from an employee. So it's so important to hire the right people. It's a culture check. It's a check of values. It's a check of, are we looking in the right direction? Are we moving in the right direction together? Do we want to achieve the same thing? Are we really keen on solving problems together? Working together means solving problems together. Working together means that the problem itself that we want to solve has to be so, magic is maybe not the right word for it. But if we really want to solve a problem together, then we really fight together. Then we want to do it. Then we want to achieve it. And so I don't want to hire people that just want another job. I want people that want to solve problems with me.
And where do you recommend your clients, for example? Because that was a point when we quickly had a chat beforehand. You mentioned like building a team and where to find the people. And we have this, for example, in Germany. I don't know about many other countries that's almost like there is a lack of skilled people to work with, like in several or many areas. So what about that? What are your thoughts on that? On finding the perfect, not the perfect, you know what I mean, but finding the great fit for your company. How to go about that?
I would definitely try to go international and remote, not only German, not only local, not only regional, because you never know where the right people are. But nowadays, it's so easy to work remotely. Nowadays, it's so easy to work with people who come from different countries, different backgrounds, live in different cities. Usually, it's not really important what language you're speaking, we speak English with each other. So, and if you manage that, I think then you have a bigger prospect of finding good people, finding the right people. But don't expect people to sit in an office with you 8 hours a day. This is not working anymore. And I think then you just have better opportunities to find good people.
Yeah, that's an important point, definitely. And a typical employee who has no leading skills or doesn't have to lead has a different mindset. For example, someone who has to have leadership skills, and also a different mindset, for example, to someone who is an entrepreneur. And what I heard once, because I'm not the expert here, was that you actually have to learn as an entrepreneur to almost accept or work with different mindsets. So if you have an employee who's there to actually just also do a job, like do things, work on things, it could be detrimental if you have someone with an entrepreneurial mindset, because then that person will be thinking, will be having many ideas, but like basically doesn't get the job done. So I would love to hear your ideas around this mindset topic of different, employer statuses, so to say.
I would first have a look at what kind of job do I want to be filled. I cluster it into blue and red things. So the blue things are where we need processes. Things need to get done. This is a typical financial thing, writing plans, having checklists and all that stuff. That's, for me, I call it blue to-dos. But then we have red to-dos. Red to-dos are those where we need a creative mind. Red to-dos are those where we don't have a solution yet. We can't have a checklist for creative things. We just have to think about it. We have to brainstorm it. We have to find a solution. And so we have both usually in a company. We have blue things and we have red things. So to look at it first to see is that more a blue type of work or is more a red type of work helps already to see who am I looking for. And someone who is good in structures, who's good in processes, who's good in checklists, I mean, that's perfect, but not for every job. It needs both, and not one is better than the other. So try to check first what kind of work needs to be done here and what type of person do I need for that job. And you can't have a company full of creative entrepreneurial thinkers. Then, like you said, some things won't get done, and there are some blue things that need to be done.
Do you have some percentages in mind when you think about the organizations you work with? Like, is it that a company consists like 80% out of blue, because these are the people who get the work done, and 20% out of red who come up with the new ideas and stuff?
I don't have any percentages in mind. It depends on the business model. It depends on the case, what the company is working on. If you have, for example, a tax company, and then it's probably more blue than red. But there's also some red things that where you have to have creative solutions for. But if you are more in a startup environment and more in innovation, of course, then it's a bit more red than blue. But,
yeah, makes sense.
I don't think there's any statistics on that.
How do you actually search for, it's probably the words you use, right? Like, how do you search for a more blue or a more red person? Because you don't say like, hey, I'm hiring for a red position.
No, usually people don't understand that. No, but of course, it's how you communicate it. How you're writing your job descriptions. I'm looking for a real structured, process-oriented person, or if you're looking for a creative mindset who is eager to solve problems that we have no solution for. I mean, it's that type of language, it's that type of communication where you attract the people you're looking for. It's the job description.
And probably when I'm thinking back to smaller teams or entrepreneurs who start with little teams with 2 or 3 people, it's probably for them the clarity again first. What are the things I want to outsource? Is this one job? Do I perhaps need 2 people who do like part-time work for me? Is it, what kind of person does this kind of work? Like, do I need a more structured person or a more creative person for that? And then come up with, what do you actually need for your team?
Usually, if you are really starting your business and you want to hire the first 1, 2, 3 people, it's good to have all-rounders, because if you find experts, they really want to be experts. Usually, if you're such a small company, there's a lot to the right and the left that needs to be done. If you have all-rounders that are willing to do the work that is on the right and on the left, and your company is still in the movement of change, and it's changing fast, because you haven't stabilized your business model, you haven't stabilized your product yet, you're growing. That means you have to find people that are flexible in that way, that really want to be flexible. They want to learn together with you. They want to build up the company with you. If you are looking for experts, they want to be better in their own field. And then you have the generalist and the experts. I think for the start, it's good to have more generalists that are a bit of expert in their field, but you don't need this deep, deep, deep experts. You need them later on. And otherwise, if you think you hire really good experts, then you will lose them after a year because there's too much work on the right and left that needs to be done, and they don't want that.
They get bored or they get not excited about their job anymore.
No, because they cannot grow their expertise. A generalist likes to grow in the broad way and learn more things, new things, but the expert wants to just deep dive and deep dive and deep dive and deep dive. So there's the difference.
Because you have mentioned before, like even in your own introduction, you have mentioned the word trust, and also in between now it fell again, this word. This is also what I see with clients and other people. I also saw it in myself. You know, if you're the person who does everything, like an entrepreneur is the person who's wearing all the hats. I would say an entrepreneur is almost like the absolute all-rounder, like wearing all the hats, doing everything. And then to learn to outsource things and start leading other people. A big thing that I see happening is this inability to delegate, because it's almost like I can do everything better and I almost can't trust other people to do it to my level. So this topic of self-leadership, or this topic of how to lead, how do you experience that in your workshops and with people?
I would always suggest to hire only someone for some things where you don't have an expertise for. So, for example, if you are an entrepreneur and you have been doing your social media stuff before, your LinkedIn, blah, 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 usually then you have a personal brand and you have a personal style, how you communicate. And this is really hard to delegate. Nobody can communicate like you do. And so what you can delegate is not how you write it, but to make the plan, to post it, maybe to do the graphics, to use the tools. That is something that you can delegate, but not how it is written. So you have to be really precise in what can I delegate and what is not possible to delegate, because it's too much of me behind it. And especially if you're an entrepreneur and you have started as an own business and now you want to hire the first 1, 2, 3 people, you really have to be clear about, do I have an expertise myself in that? Or is this what I want to delegate somehow really deep down connected to me? Because as an entrepreneur, if you have your own little business, the business is so connected to a personal brand. That is really hard. You feel, and then you get this feeling you're cutting off your arm or your left leg or something. And this shouldn't happen. So it should be something that is really easy to delegate. And I think that's the first thinking. And not, I just find a social media manager that is doing all my Insta and LinkedIn stuff. Because then you will be so unhappy with what's happening.
And I would have a follow-up question with that, because obviously at some point you still want to delegate things. We could go into the coaching, like I have the coaching example, for example, like Tony Robbins, an absolute brand. And I guess he does not write a single one of his own posts. Also, like he has his own team of coaches. If you don't want to spend $1 million and more, you will not be able to hire Tony Robbins. But you can hire some of like Tony Robbins' team, so to say. So people who teach or who coach in his way. Perhaps you want to teach someone the things that you do that then this person does. And perhaps it's similar also how it was with at least some work you did for Teresa, or you still do. So how would you say this works then?
You have to be sure that the other person is doing it better than you. And you have to trust the person that the other person is doing it better than you. And of course, there's this, this let go trust thing. But if sticking to the example of Tony Robbins, if he really wants to grow, then he probably hired experts in the field so he can really trust them and say, okay, now you do it, and I trust you the way how you do it. And maybe he gave some briefing, we talked about tight, loose, tight. This is my briefing. This is my vision. This is my expectation. This is how I want to have it done. And then you can let go. And then you can go in retrospectives to tune it. So it's better and better and better and better. But this doesn't happen in a day. You don't hire someone and say, here, just do it. It'll be fine. You don't do it. That is not leading someone to good goals. And then you will be disappointed.
So basically a longer process, and trust is involved, but not so much just trust in like nothing you can see. It's more hiring a person, for example, has a skill set that is even better than yours. And then obviously trusting that person will come up with a way how she thinks it needs to be done, almost like, and letting go and trusting the process basically then, even though it might be different than how you would do it.
Different is not wrong. Different is different. But if the results are good, and that is the last tide and tide lose tide, if the results are good, like the click rates go up, the interaction goes up when we stick to social media, then it's the right way. And so, I love those 3 words so much, be tight in your expectations, be tight in your goals. Just let the person do something and then look at the results. Be tight on the last one. And then you can see how it works. And if the results are not better than the ones you had before, then you have to change the way it has been doing.
And I think it will be super helpful for others, like this concept, this tight, loose, tight concept, like tight in your goals and vision, loose in how you let people do it, basically. And this is what I wasn't aware of before. So the first 2 I knew, basically. And then the last one, like be tight in your expectations and in the results, and probably also not fear in like, if you tell someone like, hey, this is not how it should look like. Many people are super, like, especially when they come from this pleasing mentality. And we all know that probably, especially as women, like make it right for everyone. And then to tell someone like, okay, no, this is not how it should be. Let's talk about it. Let's see, communicate how it should be instead.
Come and give feedback. This is not what I expected. Okay. Then we have to have this managed expectation issues. I think this is something that we all have to learn in becoming a leader, is talking to each other, communication. We're so afraid of saying the wrong things. We're so afraid of giving feedback. We are so afraid of criticizing. But this is so important. If you want to become a leader, if you want to become a good team lead, then you have to be good in your communication. And there's one really good way of giving feedback is the nonviolent communication by Marshall Rosenberg. And the other concept that I really like is from Kim Scott. It's called radical candor. And it says, if you're connected in a good personal way, if you show the other person that you care personally, then you can be open, then you can say things that might be a bit tricky. But first you have to establish the relationship. And then you can be open and frank. And this is something that you really have to learn, and that really puts a lot of weight on the last tide, giving feedback, checking the results, talking to each other, learning together. Okay, I wasn't clear enough. I'm sorry. Then it goes back to the first tide. I'll be clearer from now on. But then communication is really key to good leadership. Yeah.
And as you said, it's so difficult for so many people. Many people are so afraid. And I have some more questions, but just one thing to mention, that you do these kind of workshops. Like basically in your workshops, people learn basic communication skills. Like I just wanted to know, is this one thing that you actually offer in the workshops that you do, that you work with people on communication skills and how to actually give feedback?
That's one aspect, how to give feedback, how to communicate, how to dare to open up, but also to create psychological safety. How can I create a room where people can be open? How do I create a room where we can give each other feedback? Because even if I'm a leader and I give feedback, I also want my team to give feedback to me. I want to learn as a leader. And how do I create that? How to create this openness and the safety? And how do I communicate that? That's a big issue.
Yeah. Can you perhaps, like for the others who might not know this concept of psychological safety, could you give a short definition of that?
Psychological safety, it's where people are able to talk openly about their ideas without being afraid of being heard, without being afraid of being laughed at, without having any kind of fears. So if we talk to each other and I can just tell you things, I can show myself in a vulnerable way, then I feel safe. And it's the space at work where I just go and feel safe. It was discovered by Amy Edmondson that to create high-performance teams, that is a clue issue. And it was connected to some Google project, experiments, studies, whatever. But you can have really smart people in your team. You can have quick thinkers in your team. But if you don't feel safe, then you don't say anything. If you don't feel safe, then you don't speak up. If you don't feel safe, then you don't say where things go wrong. Then you don't say where to improve. There's one really, really big example where things went wrong, and that's the Chernobyl accident. People there didn't speak up. People there saw something went wrong, but they didn't feel safe, and so they weren't able to speak up. And that's how this really catastrophic crisis came to happen. And so we really need to innovate, to improve. We need the safety to speak up.
Yeah, and I would say it sounds almost paradisical. I don't know if this is a word, like paradise. And I would also assume that it's not a big thing yet. Like at least the little corporate experience that I have of whatever 3 or 4 years. Also, what I hear from other people, it's not a thing that is mainstream. Like I hear more these things of like, oh my goodness, don't say make sure to only say the right things. And, you have a good idea, better not voice it because someone else is going to take it, and I'm not going to be credited. Or if I say something, if I say like, hey, that was my mistake, it's like my bonus, my job, whatever that is, out the window, so to say. So what you say almost sounds like something to look for, but not yet mainstream.
What I'm following is that people behave in the way the structure and the concept of the company tells them to. And that's where this organizational design comes into place, from leadership to organizational design. So if I want my people, my employees to behave in a different way, if I want them to be open, if I want them to speak up, then I have to make sure that the structure and the processes within the company are not hindering them from doing that. So if I want the teams to collaborate, then there shouldn't be different goals that are attached to bonuses and money that makes the team go in one direction and the other team go in the different direction. If I want the leader to build up a team that is collaborating with each other, they're open in a special way, then I cannot give a bonus to the leader for some strange goals. And there's so much to keep in mind when you build up an organization. But I think the most important thing is that people behave in the way the structure is telling them. It's like a game. If you look at the game of Monopoly, you want to buy streets, you want to buy houses, you want to buy hotels, and you're so happy when other people fail and they go bankrupt. I mean, that's the game. But if you play a different game with different rules, then you behave in a different game. So this is really connected. So if your employees don't behave in the way you want them to, look at the structure, look at the processes, and look at your organizational design. And you have to change your organizational design to see the results in the behavior of the people. That's where leadership comes to organizational design.
So basically, there is the part of leadership that you have to learn as a leader. And then there is also the part of the whole company. You just as the leader are not the only influence. And then it's probably the question, how do you change like a big ship, like a big company into cultural change, so to say, because this is what we're speaking about, like the change of a whole culture in many cases. And that's probably the big question, like, wow, how to get this big ship moving into a slightly different direction.
What I think is really wrong to tell the people that they have to change their mindset or they have to change the culture. What I think is really wrong to make some workshops with the people and tell them, okay, now we have this cultural change, but the structure and the processes stay the same. this is not leading anywhere. So if we really want to change the culture in a company, you have to start with structure and processes. Culture follows structure, culture follows processes, behavior follows structure, behavior follows rules. And so you have to change the rules. Otherwise, you don't get a new behavior. It's the context. We're always behaving in a context. And so you have to change the context to see a different behavior. It sounds so simple, but it's not. For example, if you look at kids, and if a kid is not behaving well at the evening dinner, then the parents, sit still now, eat properly. But what the kid is showing is the symptom of the family. There's something wrong in the family. There's something wrong between the parents. And the kid has so fine-tuned antennas. It's just showing there's something wrong in the system. And it's the same with organizations. If you have a high fluctuation, if the people are moving out of the company, if there's no collaboration, it's a symptom.
My goodness, I love that stuff. As you know, like I've studied some of these things, but more from a different perspective. And more from an individual perspective, and I've never worked with big organizations as you do. So this is like basically, it's almost not a podcast anymore. It's like just Lydia being curious, like, I want to know more. Like, how does this work? How does this work? No, well, all good. Like the symptoms and changing processes and structures, even there, I would guess, oh my goodness, like how to find in such a complex system, how to find the processes and structures that are like the cause or are at the cause or, like for the whole thing. Like, How do you do that? Are you like a magician or something?
You have to observe. You really have to observe a lot. You have to listen and not only hear, but listen. The difference between I hear you, I listen. And you have to observe and you have to listen. And then you have to try little changes. And this is why I like the concept of tight, loose, tight so much, because you observe and you see, okay, I want a different behavior. What do I have to change? Do I have to be tighter here, looser here, or tighter there? And then you just give it a single little push in any direction. And then you observe again. Then you give it a push in a direction. Then you observe again. So it's not something that, we need 3 workshops and then the thing is done. So we have to really observe and think. For example, I have worked with a company. They said, they're not fulfilling their goals and we're not really happy how they work with their goals. And so we put the whole goal and bonus system on hold. We discussed it. And so this company is now in the middle of changing the payment system. So they took off the goals, they took off the bonuses, they changed the way the people are paid. And this is an impulse you give in the company. And then we have to observe in the next step. And what's happening? What has happened with the people? How do they behave? How do they perform? Has the performance changed? Yes or no? But you give those impulses and then you just keep on going. But it's nothing that you change in a 2-day workshop or can we not talk to the people? Of course, you can fire everyone. Of course, you can do that. Of course, you can try to hire new people in the hope that they would behave in a different way. But it's the system. If you don't change the system, you will always complain. I always find the wrong people. It's always the wrong employees.
And then basically, if the leader says, I guess you're being hired by, I have no idea how this works in the organization, but someone like the CEO or someone who like makes the signature. So you basically should have the backing from them to be able to implement these things. Because if it's then again someone who doesn't want it and says like, no, this process is not going to be changed, then what now?
If I work with leaders, of course, they can come to me on their private basis if they want to work on their leadership skills. But if we talk about organizational design, of course, this has to be by the owner of the company. I need the owner of the company to discuss those things. If he's not or she's not backing it, then it's not working.
Yeah, very, very interesting. And I would just love to finish our round today. Obviously, there is so much more to learn about all of this. Some more thoughts around the topic of self-leadership, because obviously the people who listen here, they are usually like not owners of huge companies. It's more the smaller companies. So perhaps some ideas and tips around how to improve, like some things we already heard, like the feedback, learn to give feedback, learn to delegate. and just some more basic things that are good to improve your leadership skills. Like, where do you even start? What is your recommendation?
Find a hobby.
Find a hobby. Okay, I didn't expect this one.
Get yourself a yeah, I know. But get yourself a hobby that you really want to do in your free time, because that is the way how to clear your head. That is the way where you can learn. That is the way where you can develop. And it doesn't matter what kind of hobby it is. If it's sports or drawing or an instrument, but you have to be able to clear your head in between. And there has to be something in your life that is so exciting, that is so interesting, that you're willing to finish the job at 6 o'clock in the evening because you want to do your hobby or because you want to do it on the weekend. So don't work too hard, and find yourself a hobby where you can learn things, where you can develop yourself. You know, when you learn an instrument, you know how to fail, you know how to keep on going and keep it pushing, but you learn it in a really soft way. The same in sports. And so that's my biggest tip to everyone out there who wants to be an entrepreneur. Find yourself a hobby, and life is not work. And one thing for leaders is also what I said in the beginning. How should it feel? And what kind of footprint do you want to leave in the person that goes home in the evening? What kind of footprint do you want to leave in other people? Every leader has some influence on other people. And what kind of influence should that be? If that person goes home in a really good mood and was supported by its leader, then this person will give those feelings to other people as well. So to me, to be a leader means also to be clear about what kind of footprint you want to leave in the person you're leading. And I hope it's a good one. You don't want your people to go home and be frustrated and disappointed and yell at other people or yell at the kids. You want them to be in peace and calm and in balance. And to be clear about your influence when you are a leader. That's really important, I think.
Because you opened up this part now, I have a follow-up question. Because what we also learn, like, I love this, you know, like, you have an influence on other people as a leader. It's not only about like, hey, do this or do that. It's really how you lead them, how they then leave you, basically, and what they bring into the world. And the follow-up question for that is, when do you take too much responsibility? What if a person then has like their own issues, obviously, as well, and then is super angry, super frustrated? Where do you draw the line between, okay, this is how I can have a good influence on other people and make the world a little bit happier, and where is it not my influence anymore? Like, where is it the other person, and where can I perhaps not make this person happy?
I think there's the difference between making other people happy, or what kind of influence do I have through my behavior? I'm not responsible for the happiness of other people. I'm not. I'm responsible for myself. But I have impact on other people. And I think that draws the picture a bit sharper. The impact I give, the impact I have, if I behave in a way that I feel good myself, I have communicated in a fair way, I have treated everyone in a fair way, I've done just the best I can, then it's enough. And enough is enough. I don't have to be more. I don't have to do more. And it shouldn't cost me more energy I give than I get. Because this is when we talk about self-leadership. And if someone is really struggling with his or her own life, this is not... sorry to say that this is not my business. Yeah. So I cannot solve the problems from other people. Of course, I can support them, I can help them, I can advise them. As you said, you have to draw a line there. And you're not responsible for everything now.
Yeah, I think that's a very beautiful end for our session. Like this, I have to feel good myself, and it's about the impact I have on other people. basically also, through self-leadership, how do I show up myself? And also this fairness and treatment, like treat others fair, but this obviously includes yourself, like treat yourself fair. Like how would you treat yourself? And it should always be a fair exchange, basically. So, yeah. Any departing thoughts, dear Susanne, for today?
One important question that people tend to forget is the question, what is really important in life? We put work very often in the center of our life, especially entrepreneurs, especially people who have started their own business, and then nothing is more important than that. But that's why I said get yourself a hobby. Think about what is really, really important, because it's not work. It's not your company. There are other things out there that are more important than that. So I really want to work with people and have a bit of a focus that is not only work.
What is really important in life? Yeah, a good question to ponder. Okay, thank you, dear Susanne. And I'm going to put probably your LinkedIn and your website into the show notes. So anyone who's interested, I checked with Susanne beforehand. She also offers workshops, for example, in English, so not just in German. So if you think this is the next step for you, if you need some kind of support, either in the leadership, smaller leadership part for yourself, or obviously in bigger organizational design, she might just the person to reach out to. So thank you for a very interesting talk today, Susanne.
Thank you, Lydia. Thank you, Lydia, for having me here, for inviting me and asking me all those wonderful questions.
And I would say until the next time, and for now, towards amazing teams and amazing entrepreneurs who learn how to lead amazing teams, so to say. Okay, that's it for today, and until next time.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Did you like this podcast episode? Then please share it with people who you know could benefit from it. Also, I would be super grateful if you could leave me a 5-star rating and review on iTunes. It would mean such a lot to me. If you want to stay connected with me, please join my Telegram channel for daily mini reminders around mindset, business growth, investing, and living life to the fullest. Or message me directly on Instagram or LinkedIn. You will find all the links in the show notes. Thank you for listening, and until the next episode. Much love, Lydia.